Okay, so what we're going to be talking about today, how many of you are just starting out? Good. How many of you got sales already? Good. How long have you been in business? How many years? 3 years? 2.5? Okay. Okay, so the first thing we're going to be, we've got quite a few slides that I want to get through, which normally would be a 3-hour session. So if you feel that it will be going too fast probably, but I want to cover some of these topics so that you have the education and the width, the bandwidth to realize what you need to really understand when you start your own business, because starting your own business is not, in this industry, about inventing a widget. You're going out there and you're designing a line of clothing, and these days it's progressive. It used to be 5 lines a year. Now we're doing it all the time. So you've got to be reinventing and doing new cool stuff all the time. So let's get started and hopefully give you an idea of what you need to be thinking about. So I think I gave you a little bit of background. I'm originally from Manchester. I always say a good place to come from in England. It was the textile center of the world at one time, but I've lived here in California for, I'm trying to think, about 30 years now, but lived in Seattle and Germany. So I've had a global sort of background, and also when I graduated, they asked me to go back and teach. So I was teaching and designing in England, and that dual career has led me to still being a teacher and hopefully a helpful consultant. Okay, so before you begin your journey, it's important to understand the product cycle involved in creating a garment. And by the way, if you get lost, just email me and I'll send you the presentation, okay? So, and then you can look out for it being filmed on a USB stick. So you've got to really understand what the process is. So I'm going to go through some of the major steps involved in manufacturing a garment. So a lot of you may know some of this, and some of you may know the business side. But these are the things that can really throw you off, because you may be great in designing, but suddenly you've not got your production covered, and things, you know, the fabrics came in the wrong width, or something happened to totally throw you off. So product development, design and development, sourcing, this is where you're at now. Fabrication, first pattern, first sample, first costing. And then you've got your merchandising department. These days, merchandising is probably more important in lots of ways than it is in design, because everything's about merchandising, right? There's no real trends. You're all wearing whatever you want. So this whole merchandising is key to understanding where the trends are going. So your merchandise department will approve the line. They may have to say it's too expensive, so we're cutting down on the price. They'll merchandise the line, so the pieces are then going to show together. Your tops and your bottoms are going to look good together. And then what? You've got to find sales reps, or have you got your own in-house reps? So finding a rep is not easy. Finding the right rep can make your company. Finding the wrong rep can destroy your company. So it's important that you find the right rep for your particular products. Where do you find them? Well, there are 4 big buildings with showrooms in it.
Question, how do you be sure to have the great salary?
Sorry?
How do you be sure to have the great salary?
The great?
Yes, salary.
Sales rep. Yeah. You've got to do your due diligence. You've got to check them out. Who are they working with? Ask questions. Are they happy with them? These are the things, you know, that really, in some ways, and we always laugh, it's like finding a good husband. You've got to find the right fit for your product, and you understand the product, right? Okay, pre-production. So then, once your orders are placed, where are you going to be ordered? You've got to make an estimate. How many yards you're going to be buying? Who's doing the tech packs? So that your tech packs are created to give them all the way through production. Who's doing the marking and the grading, the cutting tickets, and the production cost? Who's your contractor? Who are you working with? All these things go into just the beginning part. Okay, so your fabrics are received. Inspecting them, very important. bundling once they've been cut. The contractor sews them up. Quality control, checking all the way through to make sure that the quality is consistent. If for any reason your quality is not consistent, you're going to have goods returned. So packing and shipping per terms, the order of what they placed the order and they wanted it shipped in a certain way. If you ship them with your bottoms without your tops, and you don't ship them in the right instructions that you've been told how to ship them, you're going to get goods returned. You're going to get chargebacks. Making sure you understand that whole shipping process is really important. Then the financial department, that means collecting the money. How are you going to be charging them on a credit card, and the day you ship, you get paid? What are the ways of getting paid? And who understands bookkeeping and making sure you know when your money's coming in and making sure when your money's going out? If you don't know that, you certainly need to find somebody who can do that or can be a service to you. So the stores receive the goods, the products hopefully sell, and if they don't, they go on the markdown rack, and sometimes that markdown rack is going to be charged back to you. So it's important that you don't get those chargebacks. So you've got so many balls up in the air. If one of these things gets lost in translation, you're in big trouble. So getting started. Having an idea and a new revolutionary design is exciting, but it's always important for you to understand this whole process, keeping it important for you to understand financing. So do you all know your market niche, your demographics, who you're going to sell to, what are your price points? This is where you start. So checklist. Are you a self-starter? Do you enjoy doing business? How good am I making decisions? Do I have the physical and emotional stamina to run a business? And a lot of people think, I say, why are you doing a business? And they say, well, I don't like working for people. Well, you know, when you start your own business, basically you will be working for people. And it's really quite stressful. There's a lot of people there nodding their heads. And you think when you go to work for someone, you're there from maybe 9 o'clock until 5 o'clock, right? When you run your own business, how many hours are you working?
24.
That's right. Sometimes 26, right? So it's important that you have the ability to handle stress, and at the same time have the ability to know, you know, where is your calm down period. Obviously you can't be at it for 24 hours a day. So are my attitudes and drive strong enough to maintain motivation? How will the business affect my family, those of you with children? It's tough to juggle all that. Have I researched the market completely? So that means the demographics. Do you understand the demographics of Los Angeles? Do you understand the demographics of New York? America's a big country. We forget that. You can't put a power brush onto this is what it is in America. It's not. It's very different. So it's very important that you understand the dynamics and the demographics. And what price point will your clothes fall into? Very important. Identify where your funding is coming from. You can't do this business without money. You have to know where your money is coming from. So having an idea of where that money is coming from, how you're going to use it, that then is all part of your business plan. How many of you got a business plan? Hands up high, you should be proud. Cool, okay. Those of you who don't, you need to be taking our new class online, how to put a business plan together, and we'll be showing you for free how to put an investment deck together. We'll talk about that in a minute. So getting your market research done, choosing your market niche, demographics, price points, these are all key to where you start. Now brands have really changed. People are not necessarily walking around with great big brands hanging on their back jeans pockets anymore. So people are wearing their own merchandise. They are their own brand. In other words, you become your own brand. So you're not head to toe in one particular brand. Where do people shop? They shop all over. And as you know, you've all got black pants and wide pants and floral pants, and none of us really need any more clothing. How many of you in here need more clothing? She's perfect. We need you, more of you around, right? But what women tend to do is we tend to go mindlessly shopping. At the end of the week, we deserve a little walk around, and if we come around with a $50 top, why not, right? So I have to hide most of them in the closet, but going shopping for women is more like a relaxation. We don't need clothes, but we do tend to buy them on an impulse. Now, those impulses, for most people, is what you need to understand as a manufacturer. How are you going to get those impulse buyers to buy your product? You ask a lot of stores that are still in business. I live in South Bay, in Redondo area, and I go to one particular shop there. I said, how have you survived for 30 years? She said, I know my customer. I know what their target amount they're willing to pay when they come shopping. And so they see something and it's $36, $46, whatever, they'll buy it. Anything over $100, they're not going to buy it. So what is it, that impulse, that will make people buy your goods? It's really important for you to have an idea of where you would do that. And people are buying, as I say, in so many different places. And you've got your old garments that you've had for the last 20 years that you can mix in with your new stuff, with your cold shoulder top or something that's going on with your fluffy, frilly blouses that's happening. So what is it that's going on now, as you know, can be mixed in and merchandised with other pieces that you've already got in your closet. So you've also got this whole thing when people write a business plan. Oh, it's for people from 21 to 45. Okay, what happens after that? Are they shot? You're not allowing them to buy your product? It doesn't work like that these days. People are buying, there's a crossover in generations, so that you find that, mothers and daughters go shopping together. I have an adult daughter who, is often coming in and going, oh, I've got a big event, can I just have a look in your closet? And out it goes, and I never see it again, right? So my son's living back, he lives in Maui, and he's on his way back to go on the East Coast for a wedding, got no jacket. My husband had just got a brand new one, like pretty cool jacket. So he took that, stole it. So you've got those, that crossover of what people are wearing, which doesn't necessarily go to their ages. It goes basically on a demographics. What do they do? Are they active? What kind of hobbies do they have? So it's important for you to sort of think about this. And then we've got this new whole trend, which has been going on for some time, is that athleisure. So you can wear your leggings all day and the top, dress it up, put a jacket on it, and off you go again at night. That you're wearing, sounds awful really, from working out in the morning to going out at night in the same kind of costume, except maybe you put a different jacket on. So this whole athleisure wear is a whole new trend that people have certainly got into, as you probably know and seen. So what else is new that you see that you need to be aware of? How many of you actually travel around America and have a look at the demographics? And that when you're designing here and yet you need to sell to Dallas or Florida, we all sit here and we go, well, we've got to include Dallas and Florida in this, so we better put some pink and bling in. So it was just a normal thing that you would add as a merchandising habit, is Florida and Dallas would want a little bit of pink and bling, and that's their thing, whereas LA is not. So, or you're going to sell to Seattle, then you need to be thinking about probably some warmer products that you will be selling there. Remember, your whole audience is the whole of America, and you should start thinking globally. Globally, things are really heating up. We just got back from China. China loves made in America, and they love California products. So is there a way that you can think about, hopefully within your business plan and scope, is to open up other doors in other countries, which is, if it's not China, it could be Europe, somewhere where there's a possibility for you to open up into different markets. So what are the incorporating trends? We're seeing so much new technology going on now. It's absolutely fascinating. Made to measure, and we have our expert here, Christine, who's working on it now, how you can actually take your phone, scan yourself in, and off you go. It could be made to your perfect measurements. And this is then, you think of someone like Banana Republic, you go in and choose a jacket, you've got your body scanned. That pattern is then changed to adjust to your sizing. And then it's cut all absolutely automatically with a computer. And then, so the piece workers who know how to sew that garment, doesn't make any difference except they're sewing in an RFID tag. That shows you that belongs to you. That's yours. That's going to be shipped to you on your measurements. And once you've got those measurements, you can actually go online and see how clothes are going to fit you when you buy them. So you go and try on that swimsuit virtually. So you've also got, production of robots who are now, we're working with a factory here in LA, doing everything by robot, cutting, sewing. For the moment, it's just a t-shirt, but this is the way it's going to go. They're training these robots so they can do all this production. And we've also, another great big movement is 3D printing. So we're seeing 3D printing used on shoes already, on bags already. They've actually got 3D printers in New York, and they're doing these, the latest thing, the big trench coats. So it's all being done without sewing anything on 3D printers. So fast forward 20 years from now, maybe everybody will be sitting here in 3D printed garments, no sewing. I see that's the way it's going to go. That will not necessarily need any sewing. And they're making 3D printing fabrication just so beautiful, you can hardly tell the difference. So high-tech fibers, of course, and digital printing is another one. So we know Jazad is working with artwork and having it printed on beautiful cashmere. And it's just absolutely, with this 3D printing, not 3D printing, 3D digital printing. It's just amazing what they can do. So there is these new ways that you can incorporate. And of course, selling, how many are going to sell direct to the customer? So that makes you much more competitive too, doesn't it? So you're cutting out that middle person. So you can get, if you can, hopefully create enough merchandising noise about what it is you're doing, then that way people can find you. So what's your marketing plan? How are people going to find your products? Okay, so building the brand. Once you've decided your niche, what are you going to do? How are people going to know you? So you've got to create an ID, create that signature look. So any of you got foreign names, I suggest don't do it, because you want a name that it rolls off people's tongues, that people can say, what are you wearing? Oh, it's a Nike. Oh, it's a Lululemon. Oh, it's whatever. People, if it's something like Beatrice Montrellet from France, it's not going to work, especially in America. So thinking of a name that translates. Don't use your own name. If you use your own name, you can go bankrupt and lose your name. You can get bought out and lose your name. So be careful about using your own name. So once you're beginning that branding process, you've got to be consistent all the way through. If one little thing is not working correctly, in other words, the fit, you get certain size 6 and then the next time it varies. And if people haven't got that consistency that they can recognize in your brand, they're not going to be faithful to it. So it's really important that you build a consistency about your brand that people will want to return for. So you've got to be innovative also each season. And retailers and customers come to recognize and want to return for your brand. That's so important. So financial and legal. As I said earlier, it takes money to make money. So it's important that you have an understanding about where is that money coming from and how much will that money be necessarily for you to have. Do you own a home? Can you take a line of credit? Where is that money coming from? So without a map, you won't get there. Those of you who have a business plan, fantastic. Those of you who don't, then maybe begin one. There are places where you can start doing through SBA, although I would suggest you can only go so far when you do something like that. SBA does not know the industry. You need to have people working with you who understand the dynamics of the industry. So I would suggest get an idea of what you're supposed to be doing, and then I would suggest getting Julie's class online for putting a business plan together, which will be started before Christmas, right, Julie? So, how much funding will you need? Where will the funding come from? Well, we usually say, glibly, 3 friends. Family, friends, and fools. So, people who love you are often willing to loan you money, but you need to make sure how are you going to pay them back and how much will you need. So, preparing for investors. Creating an investment deck is probably where you should begin to put this whole together. It's easier to start with an investment deck than it is to start with a whole business plan. Start with your investment deck and then it can roll into your business plan. And in my book there is an example of an investment deck which is put together with a PowerPoint. And you can answer the questions yourself and put it together yourself. And then this is, once you've got your investment deck, you can take it and show it with a presentation to investors, hopefully, who will look at it and give you, hopefully, $1 million. So practice your pitch. You're the one selling it. Know who you want to sell to. So don't be shy. And most of the time, and that in the red part is very important. You may have the best idea since sliced bread, but you may come across and people don't want to work with you because there's something about maybe you're aggressive or something. So you got to know that when you're looking for people to work with you, they want to work with you, right? It may not just be the idea. It may be the fact that they want to work with you and they want to help you. But if you're a pain in the butt in the beginning, it's going to continue, so they won't invest. So remember on your pitch, what is it you're asking for? And if you come across and you don't know, then they'll get disheartened. They want to know what you're looking for. And then you can at least ask for it and they can say yes, yes or not. So it's important when you're finding and looking at investors, what is it you're looking for? How many of you are thinking about doing some pitching online for investments? We've had some of our members have got, some of the people we've worked with, one girl, she got $98,000 on some leggings, or artwork for leggings. So that was on crowdfunding. So she did really well. We've had some others have done incredibly well on crowdfunding. Okay, now your legal aspects, and I'm skimming over a lot of this, is you need to understand what kind of incorporation, what structure is right for you. So those of you in the beginning, you may be a sole proprietor beginning on your own. Now what do we incorporate for? We incorporate ourselves to protect our assets, right? So it's important for you to think about, do you have a home to protect? If you don't have a home to protect, you may not need to do that. But if you're going with partnership, you need to make sure that you have that partnership, or you're doing an LLC with somebody, make sure that's clearly defined, what your roles are, because I was in business with a good friend and it ended up a misunderstanding, and so we ended up not working together. So know exactly what kind of structure is right for you. I've been a sole proprietor for 18 years because I on my publications. You can start growing and then you can incorporate. So, because it's going to cost you money to incorporate. It's going to cost you, $1,200, $1,500 to get that incorporation. So you need to think about, what are you going to do? When are you going to do it? Doing it before you've got lots of sales may not be the wise thing to do. Business license. You have to get your business license from the city you're in. You apply. So whichever city you're in, you just call them up. I need to get a business license. And it's only like $35 or something. So business license, then you can go to the bank, open a bank account with that business license. And you've done your DBA, doing business as. So all this is part of that. TN is your tax number. Your RN, you need to make sure you get that. It's important for this industry. It's your registration number, and it's free. It's that hard piece of paper that's sewn inside the garment. It's called an RN number. And you get it online. Go to calgold.gov. calgold.gov. And you can apply for RN number, or you can Google RN number. But calgold.gov has also got California law requires a manufacturing license for anyone in California. So anybody sewing anything, is against the law to sew it in the house. You have to have someone sewing for you in a legal environment. You are defined as a manufacturer if you are giving fabrics to a contractor. The contractor is the sewer. You are the manufacturer. So you have to get this manufacturing license, which is a test, and it's like $700 a year if you don't go and get that license. You had a question?
Yeah, for the business license, do you need that before can you get that before you sell products? Like
Yes.
during the manufacturing
Right.
process?
If production is in the state of California, but the business is based in a different state, does the manufacturing license still apply?
Some people may say it does, but just make sure that the contractor you're working with has all his legal documents and have them on file. Okay?
Do you need an RN number for outside of the states, like Canada? Is it the same, or?
It's funny, the second time I've heard that. The RN, what it does is registers you as the manufacturer. So if they want to know, so say you were then dyeing it or putting some of the chemicals on it and somebody got poisoned, they need to go into that garment and say, that was made by Lucille Ball or whoever, right? So you've got to have that information inside the garments with a registration number.
So would your manufacturer have that number, or you also have to have one as well?
You have to have your own,
Okay.
because you're the manufacturer, right? And you got to be careful when you take blank t-shirts, because remember that manufacturer, so say you're buying from LA Apparel and you are buying his blanks, it has his RN number in it. But if you start messing around with that, putting dyes and different stuff on it, then it becomes yours, so you need to have your RN number in it.
If we give production, for example, to an established factory here in California, do we need as a designer, like, do we need a manufacturing license, or just theirs is fine?
Theirs is not the manufacturing license, theirs is a contractor's license. And they only pay $250 for that, so you're the boss. But it may be that that contractor is willing to say they're doing full package. They're buying the fabric for you, and so therefore they're carrying all the, what do you call it, all the possible issues that could occur, because then they're taking responsibility. So you just need to be aware that they need a contracting license, and you eventually will need a manufacturing license. Okay? All right.
Quick question back here. I just want to clarify, so the manufacturing license, is that just applicable to the state of California?
Yeah, New York and California has very strict rules. And that all came about in the early 90s. They found a factory in El Monte with sewing machine operators chained to sewing machines in diapers. So they said, okay, we cannot have this occur in our industry. So from then on, they said, all right, we need to make sure everybody is compliant and everybody is licensed, and that they need to know that when you're working with another contractor or with a contractor, that they are also compliant and those workers are getting fair wage and they're being treated properly. That's up to you to make sure that you're in charge of making sure and inspecting those factories. So protect your brand, developing an IP strategy. Make sure you run a search first to make sure that your trademark is not infringing or is not anywhere near anyone else's. So trademarks are territorial and must be protected in each country, except in the EU where they can do all the countries. I think it's like 24. But America, one trademark. If you were going to be making in, say, in China, you might want to think about protecting the brand there if it's possible. You know, these days they are getting more sophisticated. I know a lot of people don't trust them, but you know, I just had a meeting with an attorney, and we're working with some attorneys in China to bring more safety for brands going in to sell into China. You think of their middle income now is more than ours. So, you know, the possibility for you to sell into this Chinese market is incredible. So, understand your trademarks, where you want to do it. You can't do it globally, it'll cost you an arm and a leg. Think about where you're producing, think about where you want to sell. Any of you coming up with prints, your own graphic designs? Okay, make sure that you copyright any of your designs that belong to you. Make sure you don't get caught up in thinking because you went to art college that you can scan in other people's work and manipulate it 30% and say it's yours. No, if it looks the same, it is the same. You're going to get sued. So don't get tempted. Use your own artwork. So, thinking about developing a plan to prioritize areas. Where are the products sold? Where are the products manufactured? Where are the infringements likely to occur? Where are the strong markets for your products? Where are developing markets for your products? And where are your competitions and registration? Where are they registrating their marks? So it's important for you to really understand the ebb and flow travel, understand where your goods will sell. Now, product development. As we said earlier, knowing your final selling price before you begin is obviously so important to your sourcing. Consider costs of each aspect of your creation and production procedures. So those of you who understand garment construction will really help you. Those of you who are good at business then learn a little bit about what goes into creating a garment. So what season are you launching? Usually the best season's fall, because you've got fall 1, fall 2, or spring 1, spring 2. Your demographics, color and trend, forecasting, do you need it these days? Not sure you do. I think you just got to be aware and be out there shopping, seeing for yourself what's going on in the marketplace. Prints and plain, of course, are very subjective, so you have to be a little careful on the prints. Timing is everything. You could be too soon, or you can be too late. So having an idea of finger on the pulse. So product development, who's going to do that? Design development, fabrications, first pattern, first sample, first costing, all of that will be done in the design room. And then you would take it to the meetings at the end of the week. So then you're going to be sourcing and understanding your business. What are the most important factors for your supply chain strategy? Is it price, speed to market, location for logistics? All this is good for us in California. Extra value offered by factories. Sometimes they can be your best friend. So finding the right people to work with are really very important. Quality and consistency of product, very important too. And making sure that they are socially compliant and that they're being paid fair wages. So other factors, stability of the country. Do they keep to your design specifications? We know some countries send you back stuff and you've never seen it before. And technical advisors. Do they have technical advisors available to help you, maybe with what kind of stitching, what kind of fabrics, those kinds of details that go into the production of the garment. So when you go sourcing and you're at this show, you need to make sure, well, I need to have a flannel. I'm looking for a cotton flannel. So are you, then you're out there, do you have the samples? Do you know exactly what you're looking for? Do you know what that cotton flannel, will it shrink? Will it stay exactly as it is when you buy it? All these things need to be tested, otherwise you'll be having them sent back. And then of course some tech packs. How many of you can put your tech packs together? That's an art, right? We've got one guy here, he's going to be teaching the class, right? And of course Julie is our tech pack person. So having a good understanding of putting a tech pack together is crucial for you to make sure that what you're asking for is what you're going to receive. if you're off on measurements, and if you're not giving the direct information about what kind of interfacing is going to be used, what kind of size of button, where are the placement of the buttons, all this goes into the information that goes into your tech packs. And then, of course, making sure your terms, if you're buying offshore, you know, how long is it going to take to get back to you, what are their lead times, and those are things that are really making sure that you're on the right page. Social compliance, when you're working offshore, there are agents who can inspect factories for you that make sure that they are compliant, very important. So what to bring when sourcing? Samples of swatches, tech packs, POs, terms of sales, if you've got them, and quantities, what are you looking for? Because you'll know that when you go out and you're asking for, well, I need 50 made, well, maybe they're not prepared to produce 50. They are going down in numbers, they're much more reasonable than they were. But is it going to be minimums of 500? Or how many are their minimums? And then if they make more for you, will they adjust the pricing if you get a bigger order? So those are the things you need to be totally aware of. So tech pack's just an overview, fabric weight, construction and content of the fibers, trim details, specs, including buttons and zippers, embroidery stitches, labels, hang tags, sewing details, packaging details, size specs, grading, size range defined, chemicals applications, and washes to apply, including any of the standards. Standards meaning standards of how it's supposed to be made. So these are some of the things you need to be aware of. Other requirements that may affect your price: social compliant regulations and requirements, terms, FOB, if you're having it produced offshore, are they in a free trade zone, or are you going to be paying taxes on importing the goods? Payment agreement for testing, sometimes you have to pay for them to test the goods and to sample the goods. And who's paying for the freight? Because when I was working here and we were having stuff produced in China, it would be flown backwards and forwards, and I was working in Santa Barbara, territories ahead, fly them in, fit them within models all day, ship it back with the new instructions, and then it would be back the next week. But that's all flying. That costs a lot of money, flying those samples backwards and forwards. Who is responsible for those amounts of money? So those are the things you need to be thinking about, and understanding this whole free trade thing and what's happening with how that can affect your cost. So these are some of the things you look for in a factory, and it's really, obviously, you know, you're welcome to get a copy of these slides. You won't remember it, but social compliance, overall capacity and available capacity for new clients, new customers. Minimum orders by fabric, color, and style. Where are they located? Country and distance from the port. How long has the company been in business? Past and present customers with similar products. You need to make sure, if you're doing knitted goods, that the factory can do knitted goods. You know, what's the difference between knitted goods and woven goods? And believe me, we've had people who don't know or understand the difference between a woven product and a knit product. And there's totally different sewing machines used for making these goods. So, house facilities, average turn time for specific styles, inventory and equipment, maintenance. You know, sometimes, I don't know if those of you are producing, and how many of you are producing offshore? No one in here? Okay, oh, one lady there. Where are you producing?
India?
India? And have you been out there to see the products being factories?
Yeah. Twice.
That's great.
Yeah.
So, did you learn a lot by doing that?
Yeah. I mean, my factory is full house. They do everything for me, and I work hands-on with everybody from all the different areas. So I get to watch how the product.
So how did you find them in the first place?
I've been sourcing for a while, and I've been in the industry as a rep for other vendors in the past, so I have a little bit of experience going in, but still virgin on my own, so a lot of learning.
Yeah, a lot of learning.
Mm-hmm.
So then, of course, communication, and this could be in the middle of Los Angeles. You're going to have somebody, you know, can you speak to them? So it's important that you understand, maybe you can speak Spanish or Vietnamese or what is it that you're speaking to them in for their factories. So if it's in a distance and you're having it made in China, then are they going to be familiar with the language enough that you're not going to have an issue? What's their response time? And what's their work in progress report? Can they provide you with that? Where are your garments now? Have they been cut? That's what we call it width. Sample quality and issues due to poor communication skills. Does that happen? Now, how long have you been working with India?
2 years.
How long?
2 years.
No problem with quality control?
My first year, this is a new supplier that I'm working with now. My first supplier, yes, there was a problem. I didn't really have many returns, but because where I sell, it's a tourism market, so you can't really return. You're not going to go fly back to St. Thomas and return something. So, but yeah, there were some issues, and it's difficult to check every piece that's going out. So, yeah.
And you hear that, you know, hating to generalize, but that is often an issue when it comes to working with Indian companies, that you have to really, really know exactly what you want and make sure that you get what you want, right? Okay, so finding a sales rep. So we said, you know, finding the right one can really make your business, and the wrong one can destroy it. So we do actually rep tours. When you're ready, we'll be doing a tour of the marts. Can't say we'll find you a rep, but we will do a tour of the mart, and you will be meeting some really good reps that we know and trust. So the ones that you'll probably be working with is called a multiple line rep. Works on commission and usually requires a showroom participation fee. Now, what is a showroom participation fee? A multiple line rep may have 10 different lines in his showroom or her showroom, and she's charging you $800 a month. That's your showroom participation fee. Plus, you may be paying her 12% commission. So if you have a rep on the East Coast and the West Coast is usually a little cheaper than the East Coast. But say you're paying $1,000 a month for your East Coast rep, and then you're paying $800 here. You're already up to $1,800 just to pay reps. So what are your options? You can get road reps and usually work on commission, and you don't have to pay them a showroom participation fee. But of course, a road rep is limited by how far they can ride and drive. So having a good understanding about the types of rep is really important for you. And of course, corporate reps are somebody who works for that one company, is on salary. So how to find a rep? You should identify the trade shows that you feel would be good for your product. So, you know, is it the DNA over at the Newmart? Is it the Bright Show? Is it Coterie? Is it the magic shows or any of the magic shows that we have? Where does your product belong and hang? That's where you're going to start to find a rep in the most intelligent way. The best way also is for you to go to the trade shows and sell your own product. And I know a lot of designers don't like that, but you've got to have a Teflon coat. You believe in your product, okay? And if someone comes along and a buyer tells you, oh my God, that's the ugliest thing I've seen for a long time. But you know, you've got to be able to go, yeah, right, you know, that's true. So you don't get all upset. Well, it's my design, for God's sake. You know, you're selling this and hopefully wanting to make money from it, right? So it's a commercial. Of course, you've shown it to your mother and your sister, and they've all said, oh, it's fabulous. You've got to get a realistic view of what it is that you're trying to sell. So walking the marts, walking the shows, finding out, and if you do a show on your own, then a lot of time, if they see you're doing well, a rep will approach you. And that's a good time for them to say, hey, you know, your line looks pretty cool. Is there a way that maybe we can talk and meet and see whether there's a fit for us? And I've known people who've got their own clients, their own accounts, they've opened them themselves. Then they get a rep. Then what are you going to do? So then you have to say, are they going to get the commission? So sometimes you'll have to say, well, instead of giving you 12% commission on this one because I brought this in, I'm going to give you a 6%. But be fair with them. Remember, they are there to really open up doors and get those relationships going. So funding your production. You've funded your samples. How many samples did you have in your line? You developed a line of, what are you looking for? Like, say, 12 different items and different colors, say 3 different colors. So you're already up to 36 SKUs. So you've got to be thinking about, what makes a realistic amount for me to launch in my first samples? Because of course, how much is it going to cost for you to make the pants and the top and the line jacket? So someone's going to make a pattern for you and then have a jacket made, and it may be $350 for you to have the pattern made. Some of those jackets can have 50 pieces in it. The lining, and the fusing, and all the rest of it that goes into producing a fully lined jacket can be very complex. So you really need to know how much is that going to cost. And we've had people come in and they've gone to somebody, one of these people that say they can do full production. And by the way, there are a lot of them around. Check them out. They have been charged $54,000 and not been able to use one sample. $54,000. I didn't know how to tell her that these samples were totally unacceptable. And then we've had some that 24,000 went nowhere. Check people out. You can easily get snowed in this industry. Make sure that you know who they work with, that they're happy, and that they can make the garments to your specifications. So, financing. So start with small orders that can be self-financed. And then you can gradually move on up. And you will also be learning as you go. So it's important for you to have a good understanding of the financing part. Little by little, you'll learn to use that other part of your brain. So we talked about where's your money coming from, your own savings, family investments, line of credit, collateral. Maybe you've got a home you can take a line of credit out on. Factoring. Has anyone heard what a factor is? So a factor is somebody who will loan, and it's only in America. They were the ones that will loan you upfront money if they know who you're selling it to. But that's on a purchase order. They will also advance you money the day you ship. And they will collect the money from the store. So factoring, of any of the big manufacturers use factoring. There's very few that don't. So if and when you're ready, and they usually want to see sales of about $500,000 before you'll get a factor. But you can get refactored. So it's a word and a terminology you need to understand. So they, as I say, can collect the money. They will check out who the orders are made by, and they won't factor an order unless they know who's placing that order. So, and they can also assist with your cash flow. So, but these days, those of you setting out and those of you selling, we suggest that you get the order on the store's credit card. Because that way, the day you ship, you charge their card. And they still get 30 days. So on the beginning part of funding your own business, don't send an invoice and expect to get paid in 30, 60 days. Get their credit card, you charge the credit card the day you ship, you tell them you're charging the card. Do a credit check of them as well, because they can give you a fictitious number or an old credit card. So it's important. It's terrible to tell you all this as you're going, because it sounds like, everything you do, every move, there's somebody there ready to knock you off, which is true, one way or another. That's why you've got to be aware of all these things that can go wrong. So chargebacks, this is something that happens later on. I had a company doing very well, 10 years in business, 25 sewers here, and nice business, selling to specialty stores. And he got an order from Macy's, didn't read the packing information, and he got an order for $250,000. He got charged back $170,000. So he lost his business. So you've really got to know, what you're dealing with when you come to these department stores, particularly someone like Macy's. It's absolutely brutal. They have a chargeback profit department just to make money, to find ways of charging you back. So be very careful dealing with these bigger stores. Cash flow is critical. Understanding when your money's coming in and your money's going out, critical to being successful. I've seen big walls covered in graphs of, in some of these factories, this money's coming in, being paid from Neiman Marcus, and then I can pay on credit my fabrics, and then you go all the way down. You can see this all going all the way down. They understand this money's got to come in before I can pay this money out. Because as you know, you've got a drain on your account, then you've got that issue with you can never get on top of it. So it's really important that you understand cash flow. And working capital, where's that coming from? Even when you start your own business, you know, you're working maybe at home, and so you don't have an office. But what are your overheads? Even if you were to, a portion of that, you can, of course, you can claim on your taxes. And you can say, okay, I'm using a percentage of my own home to run my business. So all those things got to be, and as you grow, then you start renting places, and it becomes more expensive. Okay, so we're going to talk about a little bit about costing. So costing, a small creative company are often preoccupied with designing and underestimate the importance of educating yourself as to realize all the components involved in manufacturing and what is needed financially to operate a profitable business. This is the biggest downfall for most companies as they start out. So having a good business skills, how many of you have you studied business? Okay, so the other creative ones, you better go and talk to the business people, okay? And we have our own attorney in the room, by the way, so whenever you're ready with any legal questions. Right. So the costing of anything is a variable that can only be controlled by you. So it's the price equals the cost plus profit. So understanding the key elements when costing will assure a gross and a net profit margin, and you need to understand what do they mean, the gross and the net profit margin. So check your maths. Can your garment stand the retailer markup of 2.2 and then 54% and your wholesale price and still have a customer demand for your products? So you always need to remember that you're going to be, part of your branding is making sure your price falls within a certain price point. Your quality is always there, and it's always on top of your quality. And on-time deliveries, that you deliver on time. So the actual cost, 3 costs. The actual cost of the production, the cost to produce the garment, of the landed cost is if it's produced offshore. Cost plus your markup percentage, we call it MU. Retail selling price, having a realistic understanding of the price structure of the marketplace will help when determining the final cost. You know when you're going shopping what something is worth. And you know, okay, I would pay that for it. But if you're coming up with something that's going to cost out of the market, people aren't going to buy it. So remembering the retail profit margin is around about 54%. You're selling it to a store for $50, then they're going to be selling that for around about $120. So could you have made that garment for $50 and made a profit? So you're buying fabric for $4 a yard, and you need 2 yards, you're at $8. Your actual, maybe your sewing is going to be $15. So we're already up to $23. And that's without adding any profit. So if you were to do a markup on that, you know, you're already up to about $50. Can you still realize a profit depending on how many pieces you're selling? So these are the mathematical questions you need to be running in your head all the time.
What would the MU percent be on top of your costs?
The MU, well, the markup price is up to you. It's absolutely up to you, but you need to say, we say it needs to be about 55%. Because then if you've got a sales rep and they're taking off, they're taking, you know, $800 a month plus their 12% or 15% if it's on accessories. So you know that comes off your
your
gross
cost, which is $50, and then your wholesale price would be 105, or you're saying?
Well, if you no, if you've made it for 50,
Yeah.
then you're going to resell that for around about, for you, manufacturer, I would say about 110, depending on how many units you're making. But that means it's retailing then for around about 260.
Yeah.
So you've got to have that market, right? So major costs, we've talked about fabric, trims, labor. The bigger the order, unit labor prices should decrease. Product produced, is it produced domestically or offshore? These are major factors in determining the cost of your goods sold. If producing offshore and paying by letter of credit or purchase order finance, be certain to include your financing costs because it costs money to borrow this money. And what are your daily operational costs and overheads, which should be calculated into what is gone into your own profit margins. So here's an example of just a very basic cost sheet. So it shows you some of the items that you would need to think about. Your yardage, your freight, block fusing, how many buttons, labels, miscellaneous, your cutting costs, sewing and labor. When you receive the goods, please inspect them. I've seen so many people leave them in brown paper in the corner, and when they roll it out and they're ready to go and cut, oh, it's got flaws on it, it's the wrong color, oh, it's got this, that, and the other. So make sure you inspect the goods as soon as you get them.
For example, when you receive the roll, how did you...
You can get inspection tables that you lay it over where it's got a light under it, and the roll goes from one side to the other, and they can see if there are any flaws in it. Okay, know your timelines. Make sure you know when goods are going to be received, so that you can get them produced and shipped on time. Because believe me, if you can't do that, you're going to get cancelled orders. You're better off at the beginning shipping window so that you've got your goods on the floor and you've got a chance to have a longer time to sell. Okay, so making sure all that timing is crucial. Ship your tops and bottoms together. Okay, so once your orders start coming in, you're going to be building a cutting ticket, estimating yardage, receiving fabrics, inspecting them, in-house cutting, or your contractor is going to be cutting, or you'll have a cutting service, and then making sure if you're choosing fabrics, make sure you don't choose a plaid, it's a one-way plaid, or if you're choosing velvet, it's a one-way velvet, it's got a nap, it has to be laid one way, it's going to take more fabric. Understanding your fabrics. So, and then once you've got them cut, then you're going to be bundled for sewing. The contractor will then start to producing the goods. They'll have a sew by that they will use to make sure it's our production sample. So the production sample they will use to sew everything from. And you need a production sample and they need one. So you're looking at two at least. The day you pick up the goods from a contractor, the law is you pay. They don't have credit. You pay them the day you pick up the goods. Quality control, check production from the contractor. Of course, trims and tags, you don't want those hanging down. And you're going to pull your orders and pack them, and then invoice for shipping. And then anyone who knows these days you'll need barcoding, EDI. These days things have RFID, radio frequency ID inside, which a lot of the bigger stores are asking for, which of course can really control any losses. So RFID, barcoding, who's going to do it? Of course there are softwares out there that can help you with all that. One of our big partners is Ames, and it's very affordable. You might want to look into that as you're growing. Make sure the shipping dates are on time. And as I said earlier, make sure that you're shipping tops and bottoms together. And then those of you selling online, you've got your website. You've gone through all this process of getting your domain name, virtual showrooms, e-commerce, who's going to sell on Amazon, Etsy. So all these, which way are you going to be selling? How are you going to be selling? What's your social media? I mean, this is another added layer, you guys, is this social media. So on top of all the designing and the production and the sourcing and all the rest. Then at the end of the day, you go home and you're sitting there doing, oh my God, I've got to do my Facebook, I've got to do my, how am I going to do my social media so that people can, you know, get the buzz about me? So how many of you are good at this? Whoa, God, we got one in here. And we got Vanessa over there, she's our expert social media. Anybody need help with social media? We have 2 in the room. So very important that you understand that because it's very confusing. Okay, so in conclusion, making sure that your brand building today is a consistently evolving process. Authenticity is key. Quality is key. Price is key. Available funding for growing your company is key, and your image for your company. Remember, if you know, there are some companies who have a bad reputation because people who own them are not that great, right? So what's your branding strategy? And part of that branding strategy is making sure you treat people well, right? And here you are at the beginning of this stage where you can treat people well, and it's important that you do that. So target market and true to the niche.